All right, hey, we're back. We're going to do something a bit different today. We're going to do a little bit of a tackle crafting hack, something I'm sure you have not seen before. And if you're into tackle crafting, tackle making your own jig heads, this one's right up your alley. So first off, we're going to run into the hardware store. We're going to buy a mold, and then we're going to head back and get after it. There we go. This should do it. Okay, let's go make some jigs. Okay, hey, we're back. We got our molds. I'm going to try this one too. This is a little bit bigger. I really wanted to do this one. Now, this is just a little simple pair of needle nose pliers. And right where you have the side cutters right here, little wire cutters, you turn it around, you actually have a little indentation. You can see that on the camera right there, and we're going to use that as our mold for our jig head. So I've got my little setup going on here. I've got a Lee hot pot, which holds about 4 pounds of lead. It's all nice and hot, and a small ladle to actually scoop that lead and control it when I go to pour it into the mold. You could really use a spoon. Ideally, you'd want to have one of these ladles, a little more control, cast iron. Yeah, it works really, really well. And if you are using just a spoon, whatever you're using, you want to keep it nice and hot, because you want to keep that lead as fluid as you possibly can when you transfer it to the mold, so it gets into every little nook and cranny of the mold itself. Now we've selected some hooks. These are Mustad hook through Do It Mold Company, and it's model 32833BLN, and it's a 1/0 black nickel 90-degree angle hook. For jig heads, nice small little one. I've determined that this mold is going to produce, I think, 3/16 of an ounce weights, so that should work out pretty good with that in mind. So brought a torch as well, so if you don't have this hot pot mold or lead heater, you can also use some cast iron, a torch, get your lead nice and hot with that cast iron, and then you can use it to ladle out of that and pour it into your mold as well. All right, let's get it started and try one of these and show you how it works. So first we take our hook. We're going to place it about middle. You can see that real well. Let's see if I can zoom in a little bit more even. Let's see if I can get that, show you what it looks like there. About in the middle of that opening. We're just going to kind of pinch it with the needle nose pliers. And we're just going to make sure that it's nice and level when we go to do this. Just a little bit there. There we go. Something about like that. Now, the reason I've got these little aluminum plates here that you're probably looking at is, for one, I need something that's heat resistant for the lead hot pot to sit on. And I want something that's nice and flat and level that I can actually lay these pliers down against, so that it is going to leak out a little bit. I mean, there, you can see there's an opening, little crack that's kind of created because we're pinching the hook. And that lead will go through that just a little bit, but not too bad. We just don't want it to run everywhere. So we're going to give this a shot now. Let's do our first one. Turn the camera up a little bit so you guys can see it. Okay. All right, we've got this nice and hot now. And it doesn't take much lead. I'm doing just a tiny little scoop. Look at that. Cools almost immediately. And if you look at the back side, I hope you can see it actually didn't even go through that crack. That's pretty nice. Okay, it doesn't take much. I mean, that is solid already. Pull that out and take a look at that. Nice, clean little jig head. I mean, we could obviously kind of clean up around the eyelet a little bit more if we wanted to. But nice, clean looking little jig head. Take a look at that. Get that to focus on there. There you go. 3/16 of an ounce, roughly about 3/16 of an ounce. There we go. Get that to focus on there so you can take a look at that. Nice, clean little jig head. Awesome. There you go. Not too much to it. We're going to go ahead and make a few more of these, and then we're going to pull out our little fluid bath with powder paint and do a little bit of powder coating as well. So stay tuned. Okay, let's hurry and do some powder coating now. Now, if you can see over here, what I've got is a fluid bath. Now, this is for powder paints, for doing powder coating for jig heads. It aerates the powder paint so you get a nice even coat all the way around. And all it is an air pump that pumps into the bottom of this PVC fitting, and it has a fine cloth, almost like a cheesecloth, that allows the air to come up through the bottom and prevent the paint from going down through it, and just gives a nice even coat. If you don't have one of these, you don't have to use it. I mean, you can do powder coating without this. I mean, I'm using a dual mold powder paint. It's a pretty hard finish on this, and I'm not going to bake mine. You'll see a lot of people that bake theirs. And baking will add a much harder finish to the outside of it, and all you would do is you'd hang it on a rack in your oven, preheat the oven to like 350 degrees for about 15 or 20 minutes, and by baking that coating on the outside of the jig heads, you really harden the shell, especially if you're doing a lot of, say, bottom contact jigging. Now, we're going to do these jigs primarily for burbot. We got an upcoming trip heading up to Flaming Gorge, and we're going to see if we can catch a few burbot on them. So I've got a glow-in-the-dark powder paint. I don't know if you can see it. Hopefully I should have enough powder paint in here to do this. And I did go ahead and pour one more jig head using this larger pair of pliers. You can see this thing is almost half of an ounce, if not 5/8 of an ounce. And I went ahead and took a 6-inch steel leader. It's a 20-pound test steel leader. Bent it in half right in the middle, and I incorporated it into the head so that I can add a couple of stinger hooks on the back of this as well too. I think it might do really, really well for those kind of finicky bites that you might get on those fish. But we're going to go ahead and coat this in this glow-in-the-dark paint that I have here, so we can use that as our attractor when we're targeting those fish on our trip. Let's do this one first. Now, you want a pair of pliers for this, because what we got to do is we've got to heat this up. Now, the best method is to use a like a heat gun, get it nice and hot, and you got to get this up to about 300 degrees or so. But you don't want to melt the lead, so we got to be kind of careful with this. I'm going to get this nice and hot using this torch instead of using the heat gun. Like that. Now, if we don't get it completely hot enough, we're still going to be okay, because we can actually heat up that paint a little bit afterwards if we're careful and not burn it or scorch it. Okay, and once we get it hot, put it down in, pull it out. So we didn't quite get it hot enough in the back end. Oh, it's melting. Yeah, it's doing good. Okay, turn that off. Now I've got a little pick right here, and you don't have to have this, but this does make it nice for kind of cleaning out those eyes while your paint's kind of soft. We'll get that all kind of cleaned up here shortly. Okay, that's basically, oops, I hit it a little bit there before it's hard. Might be able to get it to move just a little bit. Let's try it. Get that paint to kind of blend in. Just like that. Now, ideally, you'd want to have like a white coat, base coat underneath this to get the most out of your glow paints, but we just did a couple of quick ones. This is primarily a bait delivery method for us. A little bit of glow doesn't hurt, but we're going to be throwing some chunk meat down there for those burbot, and it should work pretty good. I'm just going to hang this up to let it dry, let it kind of cool down good, and we'll go ahead and do these other jigs. Okay, here we go, jig number 2. Right down in our powder paint. Come out and coat. just like that. That's all there is to it. There we go. Nice little coated jig head. There we go. Nice little coated jig head. Perfect. Hey, there you have it. Pretty simple. You can make your own jig heads with tools around the house. So like us on Facebook, like us on Instagram, subscribe to our YouTube channel, check out our new website, www.priorityonefishing.com, and as always, tight lines.